Empire of Virginia, kind of. So in 1609, Virginia had all of this territory because the documents that were granted to the original settlers of Virginia from the King of England was like everything till you reach the other ocean, because they knew the Pacific was out there somewhere, but they didn't know exactly where it was. And eventually they were like, actually, that's too much. But I have seen some memes where Virginia just gets bigger and bigger. Now, in 1784, the end of the American Revolution, this is kind of what it's looking like. There is some disputes about where actually the lines are. And after the war, it would end up looking like this. Now, this would stay the case where Virginia and West Virginia would be together until the U.S. Civil War, because Virginia technically broke its own constitution at the state level as well as federally, where they separated out. And so they were able to do kind of this funny little thing where West Virginia was able to claim that the people in charge of Maine, Virginia were no longer the official people in charge because they were involved in unconstitutional actions. And so then they were saying that they were officially Virginia, and then they separated off. It's a whole kind of complicated thing. I've talked about that before. However, something I do think is really interesting about Virginia and West Virginia is the same divisions that are around today between these really like upper class Englishmen, were all the guys who owned all the plantations, and then what's known as the Ulster Scots, sometimes called the Scots Irish, were these guys up here in the mountains. These are poor people. These are people that they didn't own anybody else. They weren't involved in fighting in a war for somebody else. And they're the same people today that still has issues where there's the two big forces. There's many forces in the US, but these two big political forces of these more rural, poorer Ulster Scots that don't really want to be controlled by these upper crust rich people. And these are the same people from all the way back in the old world between Scotland and England, that this same problem was happening, where there's these upper crust rich Englishmen trying to control things and the rural people don't really like it. And while this is one example, there's literally hundreds of them across the United States where it's between the Scots versus the English. And those boundaries have changed a little bit as time has gone on. However, it's still these populous rural areas versus these rich people in more urban areas.